Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is another request. This is part two of Leanne to be requesting the Aussie bush cop, Peter. I think it's Peter Gillette, right? Yeah, Peter Gillette. And he had started on a story on his the first one I reacted to, and this is part two, I believe, is what she says. She said, yeah. Here's part two, follow-on story from Pete's previous video. So, thanks everybody for showing up, man. Let's just go into the intro and right into the video. So here we go, y'all.
G'day, I'm Pete and I'm the Aussie Bush Cop. I'm going to be sharing with you some stories about my time in the New South Wales Police Force. I had a tumultuous time as a police officer up there, and because of that I decided to retire and move to this beautiful island in the middle of Bass Strait called King Island, where I became a homesteader. I had chickens and ducks and highland cattle and a whole bunch of stuff going on where this is my cure for being in the New South Wales Police Force, and I look forward to sharing my stories with you. G'day, how you doing? I hope you're well and happy. I'm just going to tell you another story, and I'll recap the little bit I told you last time. It's about the arrest of a fellow that I'll call John. And John was living with his mother. John is an adult and living with his mother, and his mother came to the police station and wanted him put out of the house because he'd threatened to cut her throat. And so the inspector organised two lots of police, that's 4 police, to go down to his home. So we went down to his home, and his mother was in the first police truck, and my partner and I were in the second. And we were just there in an ancillary role, meaning like a backup role. So we got down there, and this is a nice part of town, not where we normally went. And what I was immediately aware of when we got there is that he came out of the house. We got out of our trucks, and the suspects came out of the house brandishing 2 large carving knives. And for some reason or other, he gravitated towards me. There was 4 police, but he gravitated towards me. And so I immediately took out, unholstered my .40 caliber pistol and aimed it at his chest. And from that point on, it ensued an arrest at gunpoint. Gunpoint meaning he was about 10 metres away. And so what happened, I gained rapport with this man. I knew his name. I made a point of using his name, and all we wanted him to do was to put down the knives, and then we would take him into custody and do what we had to do after that. But he didn't want that to happen, and I know enough about the human psyche to know that the best thing to do in situations like that is to give as much freedom as I could to him. Because the worst thing that you could do is to contain him too much, because he then becomes like a powder keg and just wants to blow up. So one of the things that I learnt, curiously enough, I didn't learn it in the police, I learned it when I did a communication course once. And I said to him, John, how do you want this to end? Bearing in mind, I'm pointing a pistol at his chest. And he said, probably in response to my question, how do you want this to end, John? He said, shoot me in the legs. I said, John, you won't be shot in the legs. I said, you will be shot in the chest. Mm-hmm. Now, it was probably unknown to him at that point that all the time I wasn't actually pointing the pistol at his chest. As per our operating procedures, I was pointing the pistol probably around his groin or even his knees. And it's very easy to bring the pistol up on target. And what happened during this 20 minutes where I'd gained rapport, I was speaking very calmly because I know that to speak calmly, people respond to that. And what he wanted, he just probably just wanted to go home, or I don't know exactly what he wanted, but he didn't want to come into custody. So then on a number of occasions, actually 3 occasions, he went to break his stride. And what he did, he moved his torso towards me. Of course, that was in a very threatening mode, very threatening move. And when he did that, my pistol automatically came up on target, meaning his chest. And if he then broke his stride and ran towards me, he would have been shot. And I would have continued to shoot until he was on the ground. Now, that's a really graphic thing to say. Even now, it sounds horrible. And a number of people have said to me over the years, why don't you just shoot people in the legs?
Exactly.
Well, invariably, that comment is made by people that have never used a pistol. It's not like Dirty Harry, and we shoot to stop, and that means you get shot in the chest. So after this happened, and eventually, after more talking and more soothing talk.
See, I'd mentioned in the first comment, people say that all the time. Why didn't you just shoot him in the arm, shoot him in the legs? You know, why did you have to shoot him in the chest or in the head or what, you know, in the hip or, you know, I mean, wherever the round ends up going is you're not a robot. That's number one. You have thinking your adrenaline is at peak at that point. You don't want that guy to come at you because you don't want to hurt him. But yet you're going home at the end of the shift and you're mad at this guy for putting you in this position. You know, you're just pissed off. Why are you doing this to me? That's how you take it, because you know if you take this person's life that it's going to be with you forever, you know, and you'll second guess yourself, or at least you'll question yourself for the rest of your life. You know, could I, should I, would I? So he's absolutely correct that you aim for what we call it center mass. He's talking about the chest, but it's called center. For us, it's called center mass. And, you know, I mean, it depends on how well you can control your biological functions, your adrenaline, you know, how nervous are you, the shakes, you know, some people shake, some people, you know, I'm just tend to be a calm person, even though my mind is racing. Some people are very visible, you know, for what you know, when they're put in a strong stress situation like Peter's describing to us. But I will tell you right now, from Texas, what he's describing, he's doing everything right on point, you know, no different than if this would have happened in Dallas, you know. So, you know, that's just, you know, we got something in common there, you know, police and police. Yeah, it's the same thing.
He put the knives on the ground and he stepped back. What I then did, myself, and there was 2 senior constables, that was my rank. There was 2 senior constables there, and we moved in slowly, but assuredly. And he was, like I said before, John was a big man, at least 6'2" tall, and weighing certainly in excess of 100 kilograms. And we moved in, and I gently took hold of him, turned him around, and moved him to a car. It was just a civilian car that was there, and put him up against the car. And he said to me in a very childlike manner, he said, "Don't hurt me, don't hurt me." Anyway, he was handcuffed. We put him in the cage. Cage meaning, if you're not from Australia, every police truck, General Duty's police truck is called a caged truck, which means it's a cage literally on the back of the truck. And he was put in there and he was taken away to the police station and charged with a number of offences. One of the things that was in my mind during this arrest was this self-talk, Peter, do everything right. Of course, I wanted to do everything right, but it was quite evident in my mind because where we were was a nice part of town, and the presence of police in the middle of the afternoon in this street meant there would have been maybe 100 people up and down the street with their curtains pulled aside, looking out to see what happened. And it was in my mind that there would, if I killed him, there would have been a coronial inquest into the matter. And I knew there'd be about 100 witnesses for coroner's court. This was in a time when there was no video recording from myself, or unlikely to be from anybody else. So, of course, I didn't want to kill him. I didn't want to hurt anybody. But I certainly had to resolve the situation. And he was taken to the station, and we charged him with a number of offences, one of them being resisting arrest, and the other one was using a weapon to avoid apprehension. But he was found not guilty on all matters because under the Mental Health Act, he was deemed to be not capable of committing a criminal offence. Next time we talk, I'll tell you about another incident with the same man that happened a few months later. Thanks for watching and listening.
Okay, Peter, I'm glad you resolved it in that way. You know, God bless you. But I know, man, like I said, and then you got that adrenaline dump afterwards where you just like, you know, you're just like a jelly roll, you know. But quick story, police story for me. I was down at the south end of town. You know, I was fairly new as a police officer, probably no more than 2 years. And I get a call that there's a gang fight or a bunch of people in a fight, and it's on the north end of town. And I was going to be the quickest one there, even though it was going to take me a while, because that south part of town, there was a highway that led to where, you know, this fight was supposed to go on. So I could just jump on the free expressway and blow up there, being there in a few minutes. And so I knew I was going to be the first one there. And so I check in route, and I tell them I'm code 3, which means lights and sirens. So I tell the dispatch that, and they log all that. And I roll up there. It takes me a few minutes, and then I get into the area, and I see in my headlights it was at nighttime. It was probably midnight or even 2 o'clock in the morning. It was really, really late. And in my headlights, I see two guys bowed up on each other. They both turn and look at me, and they take off running. So I don't know if one is a bad guy, one is a good guy, or are they both bad guys, or are they both good guys? I don't know. I have no other information other than these guys are bolting. So I chase after them, but I'm still in the car, the police car, because these knuckleheads, these knuckleheads ran down the road. And I mean, they should have jumped over backyards. It was a trailer house complex. And they had this dirt alleyway that went behind this trailer park. And these two knuckleheads ran down the road, and I just chased them down in the car. I didn't even have to get out of the car to chase them down. And finally, they got tired and they just gave up. And I got them both in custody. And it was all a ruse. It was just fake. They wanted to just call the police. You know, they called the police themselves, you know, acting like there was this big fight going on. But it was just, they were just playing. They were just acting. Of course, they got charged accordingly anyway. But one, and they were both teenagers. And one of those teenagers is still connected to me, you know, on Facebook. And he's married now and got kids of his own. And I ended up mentoring him for, you know, several months after that, you know, after it was over. And he became a strong police supporter after that. But yeah, it was just to show you how stupid people can be, because I've got a gun. Not only do I have a pistol, I have a shotgun and I have an assault rifle, and I have, you know, body armor, and I've got, pepper spray, and I've got tasers, and I've got body cams, and I got all kinds of crap, that could hurt these kids, and they were just playing. But I had no knowledge of that. I had to take it serious. So, there you are. That's just a quick story of some of the things that police officers go through, man. And thank God. I mean, literally, if they would have had a weapon in their hands, I guess there's a off chance that they could have been hurt by me, me taking deadly force. But God dang, man, can you just imagine having to live with yourself? And it happens. Sometimes somebody will have a plastic gun and they'll point it at a police officer, and the police officer has no clue it's plastic. For them, in their mind, it's about 7 foot tall, and it's got a bullet this big. So you end up using deadly force to protect yourself, and then you find out it's some teenager with a plastic gun that he just being stupid. And the police officer has to live with that for the rest of their life. All right, man. So that's going to do it for me, y'all. Thank you for Leanne DeBee for the request. I think they're even a part 3. So I don't know. Maybe Peter's going to tell us about another story. All right, y'all. Till I see you again, I'll check you down. I'll catch you down the road. Bye.